assessments for grades 6 through 8 science. We appreciate you coming in today. I'm Heather Jenkins. I'll be your moderator today, and Ann Mordecai will be our presenter.
Oh, you want me to click? There we go.
All right, so just a little bit about who we are. We work for Demonstrated Success. These particular webinars are sponsored by the Department of Education, but for us at Demonstrated Success, we're a K-12 educational consulting company. We are in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We have lots of coaches and have what we call decades of educational experience.
Okay.
We work on
thank you everybody
ELA,
for
math.
coming to the.
We have science, curriculum instruction, assessment. We've been doing a lot of culture and climate initiatives and PLC trainings. Also a lot of data-informed instructions. And because of what's been going on for the past, almost a year, we have been doing a lot of remote learning support, over 30,000 educators. We have a lot of people watching our videos and we're working with them sort of on site via Zoom. So these are some of the particular clients and places we've been. So again, thank you to the DOE for sponsoring this. They make this webinar free and are making sure that we're getting the information to you that's needed. Also, thank you to all the teachers out there that are here today and administrators and everybody who works in education for all your dedication to your students. We know that this is hard. We are doing our best to be able to support you in any way we can, and we'll continue to do so. Just so you know, everybody's muted. We can't hear you. And if you're going to ask questions, I would ask that you put them in the Q&A section. I know that there's a chat and a Q&A section. So if you choose Q&A, that's what I'll be looking at the most. The chat will go to everybody. So if you have a question and it goes to everybody, but I just don't monitor that as much as the Q&A. And the big question of the day is, yes, you will get an email tomorrow. It will have the link to your PD certificate for today. It will have a link to where to go for the video of this webinar. It will have the PowerPoint from this, and then there's another grade level 6 through 8 science document that you will have access to that has a lot of information that you will see in this webinar. So here we are. The folks that that you will see the most today, obviously, is Ann. She's your presenter. I'm the moderator. We also have Annie Wallace here from the Department of Education. She is a math and STEM education consultant, and she's been kind of in these webinars with us and helping us a lot with some of the content and just general information. We also have Evelyn Chester and Tom Glorfield from Cambium, which is the company that does the actual New Hampshire SAS portal. So if we have questions about the portal or how to use it, feel free to ask the questions, and we've got all the experts here to be able to answer. I'm going to turn it over to Ann at this point.
Okay, thank you, Heather. And I'm going to turn off my picture too here because I get distracted by it. So hi, everybody. This is actually Heather's gentle reminder that the real goal of classroom assessments is to improve student performance, not just to audit it or like we used to just give a test and move on. Things have changed since those days. So today we're going to talk about the SAS Modular assessments for science for 6 through 8. And we're going to talk about what the options are, how to use them, how to get the reports, and then what kind of things you can do next. Please ask questions as I go. If you send them in on the Q&A, Heather or Andy will interrupt me and I will answer them, or we'll get whoever needs to answer them. So the benefits first of using the modules. I don't know how, I have a poll. Heather, you want to do the poll?
All right, so I'll launch this poll. We're just wondering what grade level or grade levels you teach.
Seven, 8, admin, 6, good. All over the place. Good. 7, 8, 6, everybody.
All right. I think that's about it's nice. We were a little nervous that we were just going to get 8th grade science teachers today. So I'm happy to see that we've got some 6th and 7th grade teachers as well. So perfect.
And I wish I had put a poll out there to see if anybody's used the modulars or the interim assessments for science yet. So if you just want to put that in the Q&A and let us know, that would be great. Just, yes, I've used them. No, I haven't. Just if you put that in, then we'll know. So the benefits of using the modular assessments, there are lots of them. First of all, they're short. They're shorter than the summatives. And I see we're getting some answers, no, 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 yes. So people are going to be all over the place a little bit. So some people have never used them and some people have. All students get the same questions, which has a benefit for the reporting piece. The questions are based on the next gen standards. And they're based on the performance expectations of the next gen standards. And you can match the units or the modular interim assessments up with the current units that you're teaching. You can give them whenever you want throughout the year. There, you can give your 8th grade students the 5th grade test, which is great. You can give your 6th grade teachers the 8th grade test. You can, any grade is up for grabs for the tests. They can help you measure student achievement. You can use them for benchmarking. They are automatically scored, so you never have to score them. I like to say that the scores are ready immediately, but sometimes it takes like 5 minutes before you get the scores. They can help you see where your children are progressing, your students, and the gaps they may have and the needs, and they can help you talk to your admin and say, we need more people, we need some paras. It can give you information, the results can give you information for instruction. If all your kids get question number 6 correct, and they all get number 12 wrong, you might want to look into what's 6. Oh yeah, I did that on that day, and 12, oh, that was a substitute that day, or I didn't teach it well, or whatever it is. And it helps you as a teacher to understand the standards a little bit better because the questions are written to mirror the standards or assess the standards. It gives the students an idea of what the assessments are like. At this point, they've taken, by middle school, they've taken the assessments at least 3 years since 3rd grade, but they've only taken the science once. So they can do a little practice with it. It takes away the barriers of, I don't know how to get to the next page, or I don't know how to scroll from here to there. I don't know how to make a graph. And what we've seen over the years is, I mean, this was just one example where generally the school was going at 50% proficient and they started using the modulars and they went up and stayed up in their scores, in the number of proficient. So it is the one thing that we see that consistently helps the SAS scores. You can use them for end of unit assessments or pre-assessment just to see what kids already know, especially if you give a 5th grade science modular just on a topic you're about to teach and see what they already know. You can set them up as assignments so they can do them at home or for homework if we ever get back to the normal world. I know Heather said it was a year. I can't believe it's been almost a year. They can be set up as formative assessments. I'm not quite sure what that means, but they can be used as practice and individual questions. You can use individual questions as a question of the day, or you could put them up on the board and work through them in teams or just work through them with the whole class. So that's a really good way to use them as samples for the day.
Before you move on, we do have one question. Somebody was saying that there's currently less than 20 questions for the modulars that can be used throughout the year, so that there's not a lot that they can continue to use. Will there be any added so that they have more choice of questions to use, so they don't keep using the same few questions during the same year?
So I think you mean, like there are 20 modulars. I think that's a good question for Tom or Evelyn.
Yeah. Hi guys, this is Tom. So every year we are working with not only New Hampshire, but the modulars and the interims come out of a common bank that other states are using. So all of those states get together and we're trying to kind of bulk up that bank. So the short answer is yes, hopefully. I don't have a hard-coded number of how many more we're going to add next year. Or what the plan is for the out years, but that is always a goal to add more to it. So stay tuned, I guess. But yes, we're trying to add as much as we can to those banks.
Great, thank you. And for some of the performance expectations, there's more than one test, and some of them there's only one, and some of them there aren't any. So I have a list. I'll show you the list. So I'm going to show you the options here for grade 6 through 8. If I can get to the next screen, there we go. You have 3 different options, as I'm sure you know. You've got Earth, Space Science, Physics, and Life Science. These are the 6 choices for Earth and Space Science. So you've got 1-4, and that aligns with the performance standard or the performance expectation, ESS 1-4, ESS 2-1. So these are all middle school. You just look at the names and decide which ones you want. These are all for life science. So here's to see. They're all for different ones. These are all for different ones, but they're all for different expectations here. But you've got 8 choices here. And for physical science, you've got 6 choices. And this is kind of what they'll look like on the system also when you're choosing them. Heather put together this document that shows which performance expectations are covered in each modular or interim. There's a little bit of a mix up on the names that I'll show you. It goes between modular and interim, but they're both the same thing for science. So it says ESS 1 here, and that's what's covered. So you can see how these, what's covered. And these are the performance expectations that match. And I'm assuming, you guys know the performance expectations way better than I do because I'm a math person. Here again is a different view of the Earth Space Science expectations. If these are the expectations over here on the left. On the green, we have, these are the modulars or interims that exist. And the purple, I just added in over the past couple of years, which has only been 2 years for the science. These are the expectations that have been tested in the summative. So actually, I don't know if that's going to change or not. I assume it's going to stay the same. Is that, again, Tom and Evelyn? Same things will be tested in the summatives?
Yes, I was struggling to grab my mute button. Sorry about that. Yes, there's no new standards that are or anything like that scheduled for New Hampshire for the next at least 3 years. So,
okay. So this will be pretty stable. That's good. So you can use this as you're planning, getting ready for your year, prioritizing different units, and organizing what comes first and what comes at the end of the year. And life science, we have the same thing. These are the performance expectations that are covered. This is the wording of the expectations from the next gen documents or the next gen site. And again, all of the life science expectations are here. The modulars are here in green. And in purple with the check mark are the expectations that are assessed on the summative. And the same thing for physical science. Does that all make sense, I hope? No questions about that?
No questions.
Great. All right, I'm going to show you some examples now. So the people who have used these before, you've seen these. The ones who haven't will not have seen them. So to start, here's just an example. And this came from, there's a practice site on the SAS site. And this example came from that practice site. So the students would have to read this one page, in this case, just one page. And I think listen to this. And then in the questions that follow, they'll develop an explanation for the appearance and disappearance of fog. So as they go through question by question, here is a drop-down menu, and this is what's on the drop-down menu. So variable for, they have to label both sides of the graph here. And what do they want to put on it? This is the other one, vertex. And then C, graph for C here. And then you have to answer these questions. A change in one of these things causes a change in one of these things, which in turn causes a change in one of these things. So some of the questions, the information that you're given with the initial part that you read, let me go back to that little part, will give you a lot of the information you need. Some of the questions, they need to have learned this in science. So some of it is really evaluating on their own, and some of it is what you have been teaching. I think I will go live now to show you another example. So to get to the system, this is where you go, New Hampshire portal, cambiamass.com. And we're going to send you this PowerPoint tomorrow so that you will have access to this. So you don't have to write any of this down or take any screenshots because you'll have access to this. So I'm going to go live. And this is the home page. This is where you come first. Test administration is where you're going to go to look at pretty much everything that you're going to do. This I call the 9-box page because it's kind of obvious. It has 9 boxes on it. And then if you want to look at the questions before you give them to your students, or if you want to show your students on the board, you can go to the assessment viewing application. This is not where you're giving the test. It's just where you're going to be looking at the questions. So I'm going to click on this one and I'll log in and hopefully it won't send me a code. Oh, it did send me a code. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to get the code. 1 second. There we go. So once you're logged on, you'll come to a choice. You've got to decide which assessment, which grade you want to look at. And we're going to look at 8th. Even though this is 6th, 7th, and 8th, the science assessments are only in the 8th grade section and 5th and 11th. But for middle school, they're only in 8th. And here's the list. It's all the modulars. So here's science, all the science choices. And that will change to, here's ELA. So they're all mixed in here together. There's a couple more science down further. Here's math. And here's another science one. So what you're going to be looking for is, this says math, 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 ELA, and then MS. So those are all the science choices. And these choices are the same ones that I showed on the screen earlier. I'm going to go in here just to show you this example. First thing, if you've ever given this test before, you've heard this sound a million times, and it's like, I don't want to hear it anymore. I heard the sound, and then I'm going to continue. And I come to my first question, or my first whole modular. In this one, again, it's a very short beginning part. Some of them have much longer pieces of information at the beginning. So on the left-hand side, I can see what it's telling me and it's sort of overall what my task is. I can close that. Kids should know that about these tests because they've taken them before. Sorry, my timers are going off. So they can make them wider or less wide, however they want to deal with the questions. There are other things up here that there's a calculator if they need it, periodic table, which they won't need for this. And then this one has like a little sort of, not really experiment, but a little simulation you can go through, which is kind of cool. So it talks about this in the simulation, and then you can actually do the simulation. If the tilt of the Earth is 30 degrees and the tilt of the moon's orbit is 2.5 degrees, it'll simulate what will happen, and it wants to know how many lunar eclipses there will be. And it'll tell you. So in other words, you're gathering information for the next question. So not really an experiment, but they gathered some information. And then you can change it and run it again. And there are some of the science modulars don't have a simulation part. The information you need is all there, and some of them you can generate your own. So that's kind of just sort of fun. Then you have to go through and choose the correct answers. So they would have to understand they have to understand this information. They have to be able to read the information, which brings us to hooking up with your ELA partners, because one of the big pieces of the ELA standards are reading informational text. And this is reading informational text, although there's not a lot of text in this one. Some of them, there's quite a bit of text, and they do have to read this and understand what they're reading, and understand that they have to read it over and over again, which might bring you to your math counterparts on how to solve problems, reading it over and over again. So that's really what the tests look like. I don't think there's another one. I think I will get out of this and go on, unless there's a question. Oh, I see a question. What?
Yep, we just have one question. It says, if we do a modular question as a teacher in the assessment viewing application, will it give us what the correct answers are when we finish?
No, the only way you get the correct answers is once a student takes the tests. Then I'm going to show you how you find the answers once they've taken the test. You don't get them before, which is, we've asked Cambium, we've written into them to ask them if they could put the standard on, and well, the standard is given on this one, but the standards and the answers on the assessment viewing application, and they're looking into it.
And then the other question was, what about our ELL population?
Ooh, that's a good question. Are you talking about for using the modulars or when you get to the summatives?
I think probably just in general, maybe
Yeah.
for any of the modulars or summatives.
I think I might have, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that. I mean, how would you normally do a science assessment with your ELL population? I think it would be the same, whatever supports they have, they would still get. Definitely they would still get. Some of them won't have to take the summative if that's what you're wondering, if they're new enough.
Great. I think that's it.
Okay. So, but definitely call us if you have more questions about that. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about how you administer these assessments and what the reports look like. So for administering, you can administer them by just showing them a question of the day, present your screen, and have them work through it in couples or as a whole grade or as in groups or singly. You can give them as an assessment. You can give them as an assignment so that you don't have to be there. They can do it for homework. What else? So when you're setting up the assessment, you do it through the portal, which is the nh.portal.cambium.com. And if you set up an assessment, you don't have to proctor them. If they are set up not as an assessment, but as you're going to create an active session right then, you do have to monitor it. So there is a little bit more you have to learn about doing that. I don't think we're going to go into that much detail here.
Right. And then you meant assignment, right? Set it up as an assignment.
Oh, yes. Did I say assessment?
Yeah. That's okay.
So they can be, again, pre-assessments, progress monitoring, after units, or questions of the day. If you want to do a proctored assessment or a monitored assessment, you also do that through the portal, and you set up an active session or an upcoming session. If you've never seen this, you'll see it'll make sense in a minute. You're going to create a session exactly the way you create the sessions all exactly the same way. And if you probably didn't do the interims because the interims were for math and ALA, but it is exactly the same. If you're setting up for proctor, you have to be there while the students are on. And we do have a webinar coming up in March 2nd, that will talk about how you administer the summatives and these assessments. So this is how you do it. You go to the portal, that same portal. I'm going to go back because it's just that same site, and you're going to have this PowerPoint, so you'll be able to go back and get the link. And then you're going to click on test administration. And like I said before, test administration is almost always where you're going to go. Over here on the right, you've got the secure browser and a practice and training training tests, which I can show you when we go back live. Secure browser is another topic. So test administration, and I come to the 9-box page, and I click on test administration again, log in. And right now what you do is you come to this page. You can click, I set this YouTube video of administering the SAS assessments. When you get this PowerPoint, that's a live link. You can click on it and it will take you to a video that will show you how to administer the assessments. If you've never administered the assessments, you have to do the certification process, which is a button. There are actually 2 buttons on the 9-box page that you have to go through. And I'll show you that again when I go live. So when you set up an assessment so that your students can take it, you come to a page that looks like this. Is that all we do in that? I was going to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'll have to show you more when we get there. Oh,
Angie Manning Welch.
Once your students finish the assessments, you get the results, immediately within 5 minutes. And there's a lot of detail right down to the questions. You can see how your students answered them. And you can use the data to assess whether your students understand, what kind of, you can put them in different groups if you want to, or digging deeper into whether the students have mastered some standards. So I now want to show you, I've gone through that very fast, the whole administering. If your goal of coming here today was administering these, then probably you could talk to us, because that isn't really what we're going to go over. but we can meet with you individually if you want that. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the reporting now. So what do you get for results? Oops, it wasn't supposed to go there, and I don't have I keep losing my cursor, which is very frustrating. There. So we're going to go to reporting, and I'm going to go live again into reporting. Oh no, that's not right. I know, we can't show the results live because they're all with students who have taken the test, actual students. There aren't any fake test databases. So I made a video to show you the reporting that you can get and blocked out the students. So it's about 5 minutes, 4.5 minutes. So you're gonna have to watch it. Hi, here I'm going to show you how to look at your interim benchmark NHSAS science results so that you can use the results to inform your instruction and to see what your kids know and are able to do based on the tests. Once I'm on my dashboard page, I click on Interim Science, and what appears are all the science tests that my students have taken in this testing period, which is up here, 2018-19. I really only want to see grade 8, so I can filter that out and just click 8th and then apply. You can see the names of the assessments, the grade, the test reason, and the count. So let's look at this one, since this has the most students. The average score was 7 out of 16 points, and they took it in April 2019. So I'm going to click here. And what comes up is the overall page for the score, 7 out of 16, 123 students. I can open up all the items and look, and I can click here and move over to the rest, or move back. On the science tests, I can't see individual questions this way, but I can look at the whole test this way. So this was the whole test. The students read this and answer these questions. I'm going to close this. I want to dig a little deeper though and see how my students did. So I click on the school name, and what opens up is a list of all the teachers, and these are their students. This is the number of students in her roster, his or her roster, that took the test and the average score. Let's just go into one class. So I'm going to click on this teacher's name here, and each student will appear. So these are all student names, students in the class, and how they did. I'm going to open up and look at the questions now. Now, what I can see is how students answered. So for this first student, she got 8 points out of 10. And I can see that which one she got wrong. I can see how she answered questions, what she selected. And I can also see a rubric. So this is where it talks about which NGSS performance expectation this is testing, and gives the correct answers. I'm going to close that. Looking at the students is important to see what they know and don't know. But what's really interesting is the questions. Which questions were the hardest for the students and which questions were the easiest for my students? I can see here the percentage of students that got the questions right. 15% got this one right, 30%, 50%, 70%, etc. On this question, question number 6, none of the kids in my class got it right, and only 35% of the whole school or district. So this is something I would want to look into. To start, I'll look here. This is the answer. So you look at what the answer is, and then you go over to see what the questions are. They're not necessarily in the same order. So that said question number 6, the student did get question number 6 wrong, but determining which is question number 6 isn't always that easy. So you just have to dig a little. If this is the correct answer, you can scroll down and see how the student answered and match the words from the answer to the words in the assessment. I tried first going, okay, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it's somewhere in here. It's one of these, I think it's these two together. is the answer for number 6. So you have to match them up a little, and it's not perfect, and they're working on fixing it so that it's a little bit easier to manipulate through this. But you can also go here. This will tell you the discipline, the next gen discipline, the core idea, and the performance expectation. And then you can look at other students' scores to see how they did. This student only got 1 right. It's a student you might want to pay attention to. That is how you look at science reports on the SAS system. Hi, so I'm back. Yeah, I couldn't do that live, so that's what we did. So are there any questions about looking at the reports? There is a little bit, it's a little bit challenging with the questions not matching the order of the questions, but you can dig in and figure out the order. You can also download the results to a spreadsheet if you, or into a PDF if you want, but if you like to use Excel and you like to manipulate the data that way, you can do that by going over to here. You can either download the student results and it'll give you some choices, or you can print and it'll give you some choices. This is what it looks like. It's lovely, isn't it? I made it a little bigger here. So this is the kind of information you'd get. You'd get the student's name, how many they got right, and which questions they got right and wrong. We've got some other resources that you can look at. The test if we go to the 9-box page, actually, I could do that live. I think I will. I'm going to go to the 9-box page. Yeah, HelloFresh, that's what we want. So this is the home page again, a practice test, which I can still show you in a second. Always test administration. And then if I scroll down, there's the resources page, and there's a lot of good stuff in here. If you go to general information and for teachers, whoops, I didn't mean to click that, but I did click it. And I want to look at the science middle school PLDs, performance level descriptors. Yikes, that's a little small, isn't it? This will give you an idea of how things are being scored, how they're evaluating whether the student is a level 2, a level 3, or a level 4, or level 1 for each of the modulars that it's testing. So describe how data from an investigation could be used as evidence. If you do that, you get a level 2. Does that make sense? And that is in the PowerPoint. So I think I'll go back there in a second. There are also, if you scroll down to the bottom, it's not the bottom. Here's the vocabulary list. This is an ELA vocabulary list, but since a lot of what they're going to be doing is reading informational text, getting this vocabulary list is not a bad idea. So it goes by grade, and you can pick your grade. And for the middle school science, you might want to look at 6th, 7th, and 8th. And one other thing, I think that was it in here, but there is actually tons of information in here that's really useful. The manuals and user guides will tell you how to do things, which I use a lot to try and figure out how to get around the whole system. I'm going to go back to the home page. And this is for if you're going to download a secure browser to a single computer, then you would do it here.
Just a quick question before you move on too much, because it relates to the PLDs. It says, are there certain standards that are weighted heavier than others on the science SAS that would determine which modulars to focus on? I think we answered that with, there's some graphs in the documentation that you'll get tomorrow where Anne was showing you what the modulars were, but then what is also tested on the summative assessments for earth science, life science, and physical. So this is what we were talking about. You can see on the left the little check marks, what's tested on the spring summatives. So that hopefully that will help you. If that's not what you were thinking about, let us know.
Yeah, so that is yeah, so I don't think within this system they're weighted, like this isn't any more weighted than more heavily weighted than this one, but these are the standards, the performance expectations that are tested in the summative. That was a good question. They're all good. So if you want to, I'm going to get it back again so we didn't get lost. So this is the home page. When I first log on, this is where I come. I go to practice and training tests, and well, this will be interesting. See where this brings me. Yeah, actually, when you actually get on the practice and training tests, if you're not logged on, which I am right now, it will bring you to just a training test, not the actual questions of the modulars. So a parent at home could click on this, take the practice and training test, and they will be brought to a practice and training test, which is different than the modulars, which are also practice. But if they go through these, the answers are not kept, they don't get a score, and it's just samples. But it's good so that to learn what types of questions there are, how to manipulate a graph, how to do the drop-down menus, create line plots. So it's good to go in here and practice a little bit. Was there any, I think that was about it I was going to show on the actual portal. Go back here where we were. So back on going to look at a bunch of what kind of documents we have. I'll start here. So when you get this PowerPoint, you'll see these are the PLDs in here. This is the physical science, the life science is in there. They're all in there. Then in test administration resources, here are all the, that's where you find them. This is where you get the vocabulary list. And what was this one? Oh yeah, so students and families. This has some good information for students and families. So you'll get, if you go into the practice tools, there are some documents that will tell you all the different types of questions that the students could get. And it's not just really for parents, it's for teachers too. You can get equation, they have to type in an equation. They could be multiple choice, they might have to fill in a table. Here's a short answer. So these are all the different types that there could be. So students need to know how to manipulate the system. And using these for practice is a really good way to get that done.
Just a quick question there. Somebody is wondering what the difference between a modular and a benchmark test is.
That is a great question. On the SAS system, there is no difference. They are the same thing. And in some cases, it's used, if I go here and click on test administration, wherever it is, oh no, I didn't want to do that. But if I go into test mark here, it might be, I got to move all our little faces out of the way. I'm just pretending to do this. Here's modulars. These are modulars. When you're looking at the reports, they're called benchmarks. But there is, on the SAS system, a modular is a benchmark. And for the science, the modular is the same as the benchmark, is the same as the interim. Does that help? It's a little confusing.
Yes, thanks.
That is a little confusing. So this is a good resource to at least read about what different types of questions there are. So we have come to the end. Are there any questions before I move on?
Not right now.
General questions. This was very fast. I can, if people want to stay on, I can show you how to administer. I'll close first, but then we can stay on and I can show you that. If you don't have time to stay on today, you can click on the link that's in one of the pages here and watch the webinar on how to administer the assessments. And you do have to go to the 9-box page and go through the certification process, which will also teach you how to administer the assessments. And you have to do that or you can't even see the assessment viewing application. So I will move on. You can go to our website, Demonstrated Success, and find a whole bunch of webinars that we have coming or that we've already done. So these are webinars that we have coming. We've got an NHSAS assessment, how to administer it, coming in March. And then we've got a principal from a school that's using these assessments for ELA and math, actually, for his benchmark assessments. So the kind that you call benchmarks, where you're benchmarking your students. He's given up using STAR and NEWA and iReady, and he's using these for benchmarking, and they're free. On the 10th, we have Excel, and then another higher level Excel, and then again we'll have another administering the SAS assessments. These are all the past webinars that you could, there's a whole list. You can just click on them and watch them, get the materials. You can go to YouTube and search for anything you want that we've done. We also have a program that Heather's running that will help schools get started using the modulars and summatives. It's getting late in the year, but you can still sign up and get started and then really dig into it next year when things hopefully settle down. You can find us on all sorts of social media. We have lots of tips and 2-minute short videos on how to do things and coupons for teachers and little articles, and there's lots of stuff out there. So you can find us and like us. And here is our information. So you can call us. We don't have our, call us or write to us. And definitely do call us and write to us, because we will write back and we will call you back.